North Pole Nights, The Legend of Mullet Santa, Chapter 1, The Interview. Ever since I can remember, I always wanted to be Santa Claus, began the jolly fat man. Wait, you wanted to be Santa Claus? Well, yeah. I'd get to work one day a year and everyone would love me. It don't get no better than that. Okay. Then so how did you make your dream come true? The reporter was a bit surprised at this immediate dive into the deep end of Mullet Santa lore. Believe it or not, it started in this very food court not long ago. Here, in this food court, in this mall, near an army base in Tennessee. I guess that explains the mullet. Well, the mullet is the result of a 1 a.m. epiphany shower. Epiphany shower? Oh, I get it. You got an epiphany in the shower. It's actually clever. So tell me about this epiphany shower. As I stood under the warm water, contemplating the crumbling world around us, I started thinking that I needed a haircut. The imminent collapse of human society reminded you to get a haircut? Yep. And at the same time, my mind wandered to an interaction that kept repeating itself as I sat in this very chair, several weeks in a row. Before becoming Mullet Santa, I was a grizzled old software engineer. I got paid every Thursday about noon. When my checking account went back above zero, I knew it was time for my favorite lunch in the world, hibachi chicken and shrimp at the food court. So one day, I'm eating my lunch, and suddenly I hear this guy say, "You should be a Santa." You became Mullet Santa because some random stranger said you should be a Santa. Well, not at first. The guy was obviously crazy, or so I thought at the time. I later found out he's an elf. Uh-huh. Like Will Ferrell, or like a young Bob Newhart. Anyways, for weeks after that, every time I went there for lunch, he would be staring at me while pretending to empty the trash. Hold on, I'm writing this down. Oh, you can't make this stuff up. No, you really can't. Well, now it's been a couple months since I had been to the sports clips for an MVP, and I was really needing a haircut and beard trim. While contemplating the meaning of life, I realized the last time my hair was this long was in high school when I had a righteous mullet. I'm not sure a mullet has ever been righteous. Oh man, you have no idea. Rocking the right mullet was the most important decision of your life in 1989. I'm afraid to ask, but I am required by law at this point. How righteous was your mullet in 1989? You ever see Billy Ray Cyrus? Unfortunately, I've seen his work when I had a crush on Hannah Montana and was stalking her online. It was better. So your mullet was better than, the poster child for mullets? Yep, and that's why I took the job. What job? Well, that elf was a talent scout for the real Santa Claus who was ready to retire. Seems he was tired of the perpetual beard that he didn't really want. Mrs. Claus was also ready to pass her mantle, so to speak. They sent out elves to every mall in the world to scout for the most authentic Santa they could find. Seems they had a deal with the Salvation Army not to poach their bell ringers after that accident in 1972. I don't even want to know. You really don't, okay? So how did you get offered the job? Well, turns out that I had already been offered the job. When the elf told you to be Santa? Yep. When I realized what was going on during that epiphany shower, I had to go to the Awful Waffle and mull it over with some hash browns and cheesesteak. How did you formally accept the job? Well, there are some disadvantages to naturally looking like Santa, like weighing 310 pounds most of your adult life. I actually was taking a shower at 1 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, as I was having a cardiac MRI that day at noon. Is this where you tell me you died during the MRI and Santa saved you? Have you been reading the court filings against the hospital? At this point, the young reporter did a double facepalm and started laughing to himself. I cannot believe I'm interviewing Mullet Santa and that his origin story is a combination of Elf and Robocop. Robocop? That would be cool. Dead or alive, you're getting a present from me. Doesn't that go against the whole naughty list thing? Had to get rid of the naughty list. If I put anyone on it that wasn't a white, cisgendered male, there was too much risk of being canceled on Twitter. But you're Mullet Santa. How can you get canceled? They canceled POTUS 45, didn't they? It literally required the richest man the world has ever known to buy Twitter to get POTUS 45 unbanned. I'm just Santa Claus. Most of the world doesn't even know I exist. I have to be a deranged redneck from Tennessee to get any followers. You are a deranged redneck from Tennessee. Touche. But I contemplated a future as Santa during that shower. I knew I had to take the role in a new direction for a new generation of kids. So that morning before getting the MRI, I went to Sports Clip and asked for a mullet. How did that go? Better than could ever be expected. This nice lady in her 70s was my stylist, and she brightened up and said, "Oh, honey, I haven't done a mullet in decades. We're going to have so much fun." I'm actually having very little trouble believing this. That's because it's 100% true. But you know what the freaky part was? That elf was there, emptying the garbage at Sports Clips. He overheard us talking about my motivation for getting a mullet, and that's how Santa knew to be at the hospital and wait for me to have a heart attack during the MRI. Are you saying Santa can see the future? Yep, it's kind of disturbing sometimes. By the way, you might want to use Uber instead of Lyft when we're done. If the driver is in a convertible Mustang, pretend you're someone else. I'm not sure what to do with that, but okay. Looking out for you. I was surprised so few journalists wanted to do an interview. Gotta take care of the fan base, you know? How many other journalists responded to your tweet? Oh, you're the only one. Most of the people claiming to be journalists on Twitter are actually Marxist spies trying to undermine the fabric of American society. How do you know that you're not a Marxist spy? Because I can see the future now. I already know what you're going to ask next. Why should I believe any of this? Exactly. There was a long pause as the journalist waited for Mullet Santa to answer the question. Not gonna tell me, are you? Nope. Gotta have faith. The world used to be full of hope and faith, but then people started believing every charlatan with a doomsday story that could be prevented by buying imaginary goods that would fund the prevention of the end of the world. Oh, so Bitcoin. Not at first. Carbon offset credits was the inflection point that the Marxists almost brought down Western civilization with. The marketing was brilliant, and it made most neoliberals very wealthy, so they totally ignored how the foundation of Western society was being undermined using their money. But the really inconvenient truth was that it was also causing an entire generation of people to lose faith in all of humanity and to totally reject all social norms that were the cornerstones of civilization since the Mesopotamians. That's some deep thinking for a guy named Mullet Santa. Never judge a book by its cover. Before being Santa, I used to design and implement software that ran entire enterprises. In today's world, you gotta have a gimmick for people to listen. First thing Santa said to me in the ER, as a matter of fact. So how long did it take you to assume the role of Santa? Oh, I finished orientation in the ER and walked out in the red coat. Santa didn't let you apprentice with him first? Nope, he was pretty done. He'd been quiet quitting since Coca-Cola stopped paying him to use his likeness. Santa was quiet quitting over money. Despite the fairy tales to the contrary, the supply chain and labor required to give toys to every boy and girl in the world is quite the enterprise. Elves don't want to be paid in dollars any longer. We've been paying them in Dogecoins for years now. Why Dogecoin? Because the elves think it's untraceable and most of them are tax dodgers. Wait, are you saying Dogecoin is traceable? Did I say I can see the future? Okay, moving on. At this point, the journalist pulls out a black book and begins writing a note. What's that for? Just making a note to liquidate my Dogecoin holdings. Good call. Suddenly, an alert popped up on the journalist's phone. Looks like my Lyft is here. I'd wait for the Uber if I were you. I'm not worried about it. They just swap window hangers for each service they are providing a ride for at the moment. Huh. Get that, he's driving a red Mustang convertible. What kind of name is Lestat, anyways?